Welcome to Cooler Than You Think. Stories from America's coolest hometown.
Hi, my name is Amanda Livingston. I'm the Director of Tourism for Smith County Tourism Association, and I am really excited to introduce a brand new podcast mini-series about the history and the untold stories of Marion, Virginia. And today I am here with Mayor Avery Cornett of Marion, and then Ken Heath, Director of Community and Economic Development, and we're going to talk about America's coolest hometown.
Great to be.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, I'm excited. So the reason we wanted to do this podcast now is because it is the 30th anniversary of the Marion Downtown Revitalization Association. So 30 years of work on Marion Downtown. And I wanted to start by, if you could kind of take me back 30 years ago, 31 years ago, what was Marion like at that time? How would you describe Marion, before all of this 30 years of work?
I'll let Avery kind of lead on that. His dad had a jewelry store downtown, and you were a little more intimately involved in that part of it. And then I can pick up the part when they hired me in.
I can take you back longer than I want to admit, but at least 60 years. One of my first memories was my father telling me he was going to open a jewelry store. I was probably about 3. I remember walking into the front of the store and thinking ghosts live here. The next memory I had of it was a thriving jewelry store right in the heart of downtown Marion. It was right beside a store called Piggly Wiggly, which is now turned into Food City, and moved from there long ago. But I used to walk with my sister down Chatham Hill Road, down the railroad tracks, across the pedestrian bridge, and to my father's store in downtown Marion. And we were 5 and 7, my sister and I.
Wow.
But it was safe for us to go. And we'd show up at Dad's store, and it was a thriving little town.
Yeah.
But things changed.
So when your dad first opened the store, you said it was a thriving downtown, and bustling, I assume. What was it kind of like, as you would describe, right before the revitalization process? Kind of what was a snapshot? Were there people on the streets? Was it busy?
A snapshot just before the revitalization is that it was a ghost town.
Wow.
You couldn't go out on the street. I was working for my father in his store at the time.
Where the family store remained open during that time.
Well, there was some changes, but my father has been involved all that time with the store on Main Street. Took about a 1-year hiatus from it. But we were up the street right across from what would be the Lincoln Theater, which was just the Lincoln Theater, but not like it is now. And you could not walk out on the street and buy as much as a Coca-Cola. You couldn't find a Mountain Dew on Main Street. You had to go down to the gas station. Yeah. There was nothing. It was really desolate. Our business was kind of a destination location. So people knew they were coming there, and we did okay. Yeah. But other businesses, not so much.
Were there a lot of vacancies on the Main Street?
Lots of vacancies. Yeah. It just wasn't a thriving, bustling little town.
Now, before we get to the exciting part of the revitalization, you mentioned the Lincoln Theater and how it wasn't what it was. So for folks who might be listening or watching who are not familiar with the Lincoln story, describe kind of what it was like at that time.
Well, the Lincoln Theater was shuttered. Yeah. It was just empty. There were some problems with the roof. There were some problems with the interior, and it was deteriorating. But thanks to a group of citizens and some of the community, they turned it into what it is today, which if anybody's gone to the Lincoln Theater, you'll know what I'm saying. It's a class act.
And that is a great segue. Thank you for that to the positive part of the story, so to the comeback.
Yeah, there was a group of businessmen in Marion that started in the early 90s and realized the decline was something that was happening in small towns across America. And it had hit Marion pretty heavy. And as Avery talked about, saw a lot of vacancies. The things that you traditionally went downtown to buy moved out to the shopping centers. And that was kind of the culture of America at the time, as we moved from the downtowns into the shopping centers. And even go back to the 60s when they put the metal on the front of buildings downtown. It was to get you out of the downtown, the ugly old buildings, into the new shopping centers. And Marion wasn't affluent enough to be able to tear down our buildings, thank goodness, because we kept our building stock. So in 1993, 1994, a group of business leaders, Bill Smith at the Bank of Marion being one of the primary guys, hired Billy Buchanan, who was there, and said, "You're in charge of downtown revitalization as a committee." And so they got a search committee together. I was in radio at the time, and I thought, this is something I've always wanted to do, is figure out a way to help my hometown, because my hometown has been so good to me in so many ways, and this was an opportunity to give back. And so in 1994, November 1994, I left radio and took the job as Marion's first downtown director.
And only downtown director.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I've been there for 30 years, and I keep doing it until I get good at it. And it was so funny when I'd go home. My office was actually in the basement of Town Hall. And at the time, it was the garage for the fire department. And my office was the fire chief's office that you shared with the volunteer fire chief. And so they had to run extension cords in there because we didn't even have electric outlets in the office. And so we started out meagerly, was a good way to put it. My wife asked me, she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "It's kind of like the Seinfeld show with when George Costanza had the job and he had the Penske file. I just go in. They didn't know what they wanted me to do, and I didn't know what I was doing. And so we just went in and started working. And got with the Virginia Main Street program the following year. In 1995, we were certified as a Virginia Main Street program. And that gave us the training and the background that we needed to be able to start expanding and then listen to the community, going up and down the street. And there was a period of time at the beginning where it was really tough. We had a Parks Belt downtown. We had still a couple of anchors, but they were closing up, and we were talking about, on the way down here for the show, there used to be a list of people wanting to leave as opposed to a list of people wanting to get in. So we had vacancy rate about almost every other store in downtown Marion was empty at the time. So, and the sidewalks weren't being kept up. The public, the town wasn't keeping up our side. The property owners weren't keeping up their side. And so I went to an ask, and it was always, well, if they do theirs, we'll do ours. And so we, kind of played Huck Finn and got everybody together and talked everybody in doing it at the same time. Got a grant from VDOT to redo the sidewalks and add some street trees. That was the impetus for it. Once people saw that somebody was interested in downtown, that they believed in downtown, that downtown would come back, then it was easy. And like I said, I've been there for 30 years, but I've been the guy up there waving the wand. Everybody else is playing the music. And if it weren't for those folks participating, we wouldn't have a downtown. The community has seen fit that the downtown is important to them, and I'm proud to be there.
Was there any, you mentioned the VDOT grant and the beautification, was there any, can you point to any single turning point? Like if another community is somehow stumbles upon this and is looking at it and says, we want to do that. Was there any kind of one turning point, or was it a series of things? It
was building community support, and that was the key. And the street trees were kind of the thing that really pulled people together.
It's really high visibility and it's showy.
Yeah, they wanted to see something. At the time we had parking meters that had been taken up, so we still had the posts sticking up out of the street. The sidewalks had been put in 1940 and had been patched with asphalt. So it just looked like nobody cared. Yeah. And finally, when somebody started caring and they saw there was a plan, and we went out literally and put zeros in paint where the lights were to go and X's where the trees were going to go, and let people kind of have a feel of what it was going to look like, and adjusted accordingly with the property owners and the business owners. And at the end of the day, when we came in and put the sidewalks down with the street trees, then people realized we were serious about it. Yeah. And it was something that they had a hand in, that they had a voice in, and we were able to make their dream come true. And once that happened and people realized their dreams could come true, we haven't stopped dreaming yet.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful.
I've got to say, if I can, that I saw the turning point as well. But the turning point was when they started the sidewalks. Yeah. That was the turning point for us. Because they did all the sidewalks, and they did brick inlay, and the sidewalk in the Iron Street Mall is actually a bottle of Mountain Dew being poured out.
Is that right?
That's right. Yes.
So the Iron Street Mall, I should mention, is a pedestrian mall that's right off of Main Street.
Let me interrupt you. The only thing I take credit for in 30 years is when I took the job. That was asphalt that had been painted green to make it look like it was grass. And at the end of it, next to Avery's store, there was an I-beam that had been driven there so you couldn't drive a car out there. So you had an I-beam sticking out of green pavement, and that was beautification at that point.
Yeah.
So now it's one of the most photographed spots in downtown.
It's gorgeous, yeah, and it's got the sign and the wrought iron and everything. So, but you're saying, I never knew this. So you're saying that the pattern of the brick on Iron Street Mall is actually in the shape of a Mountain Dew being poured out. Oh,
Yeah.
that is super cool.
It is.
Well, I was going to ask. Marion Downtown Association celebrating 30 years. You've won several awards, including the U.S. Small Business Administration Small Business Community of the Year back in 2013. Why do you think Marion's efforts have been so successful? Because it has been described as kind of a poster child for that downtown revitalization in Virginia. So what would you point to as to kind of what has made the difference for Marion?
I think that the deal for us has been consistency. We've always engaged the community, asked what they wanted to see. We've done that several times, including when we were the SBA Community of the Year. That came from a little program we have called Pop-Up, where we do an entrepreneur training. And it was asking people, what would you like to see here in town that we could do, and then how do we help you do that? And so engaging the public, I think, is part of it. The other part of it is just being able to continue to deliver and being consistent in those things we've done, and to always track your record. That's the big thing that we talked about coming out as well, is that if you have the numbers to back it up, you can help make the case. If you don't, and it's just telling tales, everybody gets to tell tales. But when you can show the numbers and you can roll out the data that backs up what you're talking about, it makes a world of difference, and it helps tell the narrative and also helps you adjust your program.
Yeah.
And we had the good judgment to hire Mr. Heath
Did he pay you
in
to
the
say that?
town. No.
He gets $20 for saying that.
It's the persistence. It really
having
is.
that consistency
And
of a
the
leader.
consistency, but no, the persistence that Ken has applied to the job. And he doesn't have to pay me for that, because he's paid it back in spades in what he's done for the town of Marion. A lot of people call him Mr. Marion because he's spent his whole life to revitalize our downtown. And he's done a wonderful job, but he's not done yet.
Yeah.
Still got a lot of good things to happen.
Yeah. Well, one thing, this is sort of a change of subject, but I do also have to ask, because I know it hasn't been without challenges.
Oh, sure.
I mean, so what have been some of the hardest things? What have been the challenges or the real stumbling blocks?
I think, one of the challenges is when you look at success, that the local folks that have been there and have seen the things change gradually, incrementally over time, sometimes the perspective's a little off, because it's still easy to sit back and go, well, we don't believe downtown is as successful as it is because we don't see this. And it started early on. We had the numbers, we tracked, and we did our first annual report. Had a business owner sit down and he said, you said this many new businesses and this many new jobs have been created. I don't believe it, until we could produce that and show him. And it was like, oh, yeah, okay. Right. Folks coming in from the outside, and the folks that come in, for the summer festival, and they come in every year, and the only time they come in is that particular time, or maybe come in for Christmas or Thanksgiving with the family, and they see the changes that have happened. It's remarkable. They'll come in and they'll share. Man, we just can't believe how Marion has popped over even the past year. But if you live there, and to me, that's also an opportunity, because the folks that aren't satisfied keep driving us. They keep pushing us to do bigger and better things, and that helps the whole program.
Well, I think some people could get that pushback and say, well, that's it, throw your hands up and I quit. But you're saying it actually.
Oh yeah, there's never a quit. There's never a quit. There's always things to be done. There's always ways to improve. Matter of fact, one of the things we're embarking on this month is we've got a grant where we're putting some money into a program we call Marion 2035. And we're looking at a comprehensive vision for the downtown and where we're going to head with the next generation.
Yeah. Avery, as a longtime, family business owner on Main Street, what what do you think it means to have these other new businesses downtown? I mean, you all have, like you said, it's a destination. You have your clientele, you have your loyal customers. Why is it important that you have a thriving? I guess it's kind of an existential question, but why is it important that Marion's downtown is thriving?
Well, one business feeds off of another, brings people into the area. And that's the beauty of some of the things that the revitalization has done, is it's brought people into Marion, maybe not to shop, maybe just for events. But once they realize what's there, then that sticks in their mind and they come back.
Yeah.
One of the hardest things that our business had to go through was 9/11. Mm-hmm. And for quite a period of time, that changed a lot of things. Second to that, I would have to say COVID.
Yeah.
But people were very inventive, and Ken was very inventive during the COVID time as well.
Yeah.
We picked up a couple of awards from Virginia Municipal League on that. Alex Veach was my deputy director at the time and graphic artist, and just a genius when it comes to that. So we jumped in very quickly.
Yeah.
Council jumped in and approved some facade or some grants that people could use for facades or just for keeping the business open. And so we got ahead of it pretty quickly to make sure that we kept the business stock. I've always said downtown is the heart of your community. Mm-hmm. The shopping centers may be your arteries and the outlier part that makes the body work. But if you don't have the heart in there, it's not going to work at all. And in many ways, downtown has proven to be the heart of Marion. Yeah. That if downtown is successful, the rest of Marion's successful. And too often, throughout rural America, you see downtowns that are shuttered up. And communities just barely hanging on. I think that if a community were to start, that's the place to start. Once you revitalize your downtown, everything else will grow.
Yeah, well, you're preaching to the choir.
Absolutely.
I love
Absolutely.
it. Well, so I'm in tourism. That's my day job. But if you talking to a stranger, never heard of Marion, unfamiliar with all of it, I did promise untold stories in this podcast. So what is, we're going to cover a lot of the highlights in this podcast series, but what are some of the little things or the off the beaten path things that you think make Marion different or special or interesting for someone to come, whether they're shopping or moving there?
Well, you have, of course, the big thing we have is Hungry Brothers State Park, 108-acre lake with a sandy beach in the middle of the mountains. And that's a really unique thing. It brings in 300,000 people for us. Song of the Mountains, official television series of Virginia from our Lincoln Theater, historic downtown. But some of the real quirky things we have. Nolan Ryan pitched his first professional baseball as a member of the Marion Mets in 1965. Billy Wagner, who just got in the Baseball Hall of Fame, started at Marion Recreation League. Beside Avery store, Cornett Jewelers, you can go in the Iron Street Mall and you can see the sandstone that has been carved out. Yeah. When back in the 20s and 30s, guys would stand there while their wives were doing their shopping for Saturday and sharpen their knives. Oh, that's a neat thing for people to look at that you don't find everywhere. So there's some unique twists and turns to Marion. We have a great museum on Main Street that has a lot of Marion's history. We also have a great African-American museum at Mount Pleasant. Yeah. And there's stories there, and you can, if you go down and read up on that, you can see in a lot of the brick in Marion, the fingerprints of some of those folks that were black slaves that made the brick.
Yeah.
And so those fingerprints last through our history. Yeah. So it to me, it shows a really ugly part of America's history, but also shows how everybody came together to build a community in one way or another.
Interesting.
I think the whistle is kind of
there
cute.
You go.
There's a whistle that blows at 12 o'clock every day, I think. Does it take Sunday?
Oh, yeah. Well,
does it blow on Sunday? I'm not sure. But anyway, I don't know how many towns have a signal that lets everybody know it's time for lunch.
It's time for lunch, no matter where you are.
And we've got a lot of great restaurants downtown now, too. So you can actually find lunch there.
That's right. And a Coca-Cola.
And a Coca-Cola or just anything you want, really. Yeah. I mean, it's just so great to have all these things.
Yeah.
And you don't have to get in your car and drive away to go to eat some fast food or something. So. It's great, and people need to come down there and experience that because it's a part of Americana that I'm afraid we're going to have to work really hard to keep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Americana is a great word for it because it has that real small town vibe. Yes, we love tourists to come in. We want people to come visit, but it also has just a lot of locals who are there, and there's a local hardware store and, local shops. I kind of wanted, my last question was, we've been talking about the last 30 years, and I would ask, when you think of 30 years from now, what do you imagine Marion being like? If you could take a snapshot of Marion in 30 years, what would you expect to see?
I want to see it the same as it is today.
Exactly.
I want my grandchildren to be able to be in my store with their children.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I experienced growing up with my father. And maybe it skips a generation, but my grandchildren are enjoying that. My granddaughter gets off the school bus in front of the store, comes across and says, "Mammy, what's for lunch?"
Yeah.
But in a place where you can do something like that, and we can keep it if we hold on tight enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 30 years from now, echoing what Avery said, we want Marion's downtown to be vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
Things will always continue to change and evolve. Who would have dreamed 30 years ago that the Lincoln Theater at the time, as Avery said, there was a hole in the ceiling that you could see the stars in. Now people come and see the stars on the stage, so it's a completely different experience when you come to Lincoln. Being able to look at where we want to go with that, who knows? I think that the Lincoln become an anchor venue for the region. I think that the downtown shops will continue to evolve. We've had at one time at the lower end of Main Street, we always kind of kidded that if there were places down there, if you didn't have a gun when you get in, they'd give you one because they're pretty rough places down there. I had some beer joints down there. And now it's evolved into an outdoor outfitters and the clothing stores and boutiques and just really cool things. And that's what we do with the programs we offer, is trying to keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on in America and rural America and what the community wants, and help people be able to fulfill their dreams, open up shops to serve those markets. And if we continue to do that 30 years from now, whoever's in this seat will be able to talk about the successes they've had.
No, it's fantastic. Well, I really appreciate your time chatting today. It's a joy. And Marion is very near and dear to my heart. And I'm excited for the rest of our podcast series, and we'll kind of dive into some of the more unknown stories of Marion. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yep.